The political tension you're referring to has to do with the presidency, correct?
Correct, yeah. When we first got there, we heard a lot about the current president, Alpha Conde. He was elected president. At that time, it was 9 years ago. Their term is 5 years per term. They can do a 2-term limit. He's the one who decided in the Constitution we're going to have a 2-term limit. And so by the time it got to, spring to summer of 2019, there were rumors that he was going to try and, change the Constitution that he created to run for a 3rd term. And so there were rumors. He never confirmed or denied them ever until the election, which just happened this past October, I think, or maybe it was November. I think it was October. And so he ended up running for a 3rd term. People say
October 2019?
No, 2020.
No, literally.
Yeah.
Okay.
The rumor started back in 2019 and he was going to run in 2020.
So when you left, it was still like rumors, kind of.
It was rumors, but also elections kept getting pushed back because they were saying, oh, we need to, reform the Constitution. So we can't have this election. And there were so many excuses and a lot of corruption again involved.
Saw where it was going.
Exactly. To push the election back so that he would have a bigger platform to run on. And so, yes, I wasn't there for it, but I assume that if it hadn't been coronavirus, we would have been sent home for the violence in the streets that was, that were happening because of protests to this constitutional change. So
and those protests, were they started at all when you were still there?
Oh yeah, they were almost the entire 2 years I was there since the rumors started. They were
the
protesting.
rumors were that long.
Oh yeah, They were a long time coming, and there were other things to protest about as well. A lot of the teacher strikes. There were a lot of protests in the Capitol as well.
And what do their protests look like? Are they peaceful protests or?
Yes, they look actually very similar to how we've been protesting in New York and other places around the country.
Yeah, depends where you're looking. But yeah,
a lot of marching, a lot of signs, a lot of chanting, that kind of stuff. But it gets violent when the military comes in and starts open firing on crowds, and that has been what's happening, especially the past couple months. While I was there, that happened a couple times, and 20 or 30 people had died, I think, because of that. At this point, a lot more people have died in the short span of time because they've confirmed that Alpha Conde has won a 3rd term.
Yeah.
Even though there are, there's a lot of voter fraud there, but a lot of the time after the election, I had heard that the other candidate, Diallo, had actually won. So we don't really know, but the military backs Alpha Conde, so they're now, taking the streets and unloading on people, and people are dying. And it's actually on Instagram. Like, there's somebody who holds an account on Instagram that's showing all of this stuff that's happening in Guinea, people bleeding out on the streets. It's very, very graphic, but it's portraying exactly what's happening there. My counterpart, who lived in Conakry at the time, was texting me, I haven't left my house in 2 days. It's very unsafe. I haven't been able to get food or water or anything like that. So it's caused, tragedy there at this point.
And that stuff is focused more in the cities, though, like Conakry.
Yes. My village was calm throughout the entire time I was there. There was no issues, no marches, no nothing. But if you live closer to major cities within the country, there's definitely some trouble. And
what did your host family say about any of this, or did they not really care?
They didn't speak about it too much. They were just like, they were anti-Alpha Conde when I was there. A lot of the Susu and Malinke were because, he took advantage of his power and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of them were against him, but that's to the extent that they would go. They wouldn't speak about it too much.
Yeah, and it actually, because you keep on talking about the Susu and Malinke, can you just expand upon exactly what that means for people? Because then I want to ask about that.
Yeah, they're like the subcultures within Guinea. So the 4 major regions of Guinea, like I said, there are 4 languages and 4 kind of subcultures. There's a lot of, subcultures of those. But the Susu is the region that I lived in. There's the Pular in the middle, the Malinke in the upper part of Guinea. And so what I have been told historically is that the Pular people came down from Senegal and they split the Malinke and the Susu kind of up the middle. And that's where maybe it was all one culture at one time, but when they split, they turned into the Susu and the Malinke kind of. So now it's Susu, Pular, Malinke people, and there's a lot of tension between Pular and the rest of the country because the Pular are the ones who usually are the most wealthy. They run a lot of the boutiques. And they're spread all throughout Guinea. They're mostly in the center part, but I had a lot of Pular people in my village as well. So there's a lot of tension there. And so the candidate who was running against Alpha Conde this past year was Pular, and surprisingly, a lot of Susu and Malinke were backing him because they were just so against Alpha Conde, who was Malinke. That
Are any of the tribes tied to religion at all, or is it strictly literally they were just painted down that line from the people that came in from Senegal?
That's it. Yeah, because I think 90% or so of the country is Muslim. So it's not like a lot of religious differences there. There's a small Christian population in the forest region, but mostly Muslim.
And was your village religious? A lot of religious people in there?
Oh, everyone goes to the mosque every Friday.
Really? So was there also morning prayer every day?
Morning prayer every day. I lived right next to the mosque, so 5 a.m. I'd be woken up by those.
Really? I didn't know that.
The megaphone, yeah. Morning prayer every day. You pray. People pray throughout the day. They don't have to pray on time every day. They have to make sure they get their prayers in every day. And then every Friday, anyone who's like respected or educated or anything like that, they go to the mosque. You know what I mean? It's only the people who, I guess, aren't super religious. But there aren't very many of them who don't follow that.
Yeah. I mean, you often see in a lot of these situations just around the world where there's some sort of tribal culture where there can be clashes within a country. You know, it technically happened here 150 years ago. But whenever you see that, it's so often tied to religion, and it's tied to like, existential beliefs. But the other thing you often see is there's some kind of like identifier. Whether it be the races are slightly different or very different, or, that's usually what it comes down to. But with these guys, again, because it seems like it was drawn on a line pretty organically, like they're in the streets. Like, is there rivalry with the tribes? And the second question to it would be, are there things where like people can walk up to someone and know right away? Like, is there some sort of identifier like, oh, I know you're Susu or whatever? Or is it just totally kind of secretive a little bit?
There's not really like super open rivalry and aggressive rivalry. I guess there's political rivalry, but it doesn't get super violent all the time. But the Pular people and the Susu people and the Malinke people they have a lot of different facial features, so you can tell.
Interesting.
But there are a lot of jokes too between the cultures. A lot of joking, like cousins who they'll call each other, thieves or something like that, as just like playing around. But nothing like, I didn't see anyone treating or discriminating against like the Pular people in my village per se.
Yeah, and when it comes down to like the presidency for a country like this, it's very interesting to me that even if it's not as aggressive as you point out in this country between the tribes, that you see one side actually go to the other side. I'm talking about like the other tribe supporting the non-tribal candidate. And was that something that happened right at the beginning of the rumors coming out that he might stay because people already didn't like him? Or was it something that happened where people started to say, I might like him, but he shouldn't be staying? I'm talking about the Conde guy.
Yeah.
And, just because of that, I want to have this democracy like we set up in a constitution. Fuck him, I'm going to leave him behind even if he's in my tribe.
I think I remember it happening before he even talked about running for a third term. Like right when I got there, I remember hearing people say that he's not a great president, he's not for the people, he does a lot of things for himself and his own wealth and all that kind of stuff. So I do think it started before he talked to that, just kind of emphasized it, like, hell no, we got to get this man out of there.